Greetings, Terrarians, Khaios here. Today I'm going to be doing something a bit different. I was asked to make a build for the Pedguin Minigame server for this video, and I hopped onto their build server to work on this. Because of it, you may be seeing people jump in and out randomly as I record. This will also be one straight time-lapse section because I had to record this on the server over a several-hour period. I hope you all enjoy this style of video. At the request of the server staff, I will be censoring the chat, which takes up a very portion of my screen since I play with a UI zoomed in. Instead of having the screen be blurry, I thought it would look better if we did this build zoomed in so that the chat can't be seen. I hope you all enjoy this up close and personal perspective. But first, a message from the channel's sponsor, me. I'm currently selling merchandise over on Teespring. Cheesy Panini has made some amazing designs for some t-shirts, mugs, and stickers. I'm just testing this out to see how it goes, so all of the merch will only be available until July 1st. Once it's gone, it's gone. Check out the link in the description below and the pinned comment to pick up your own Khaios merch today. For this build, I will be creating ruins that have been overtaken both by the Crimson and the Corruption. But first, the person who invited me to build, Toasty, had requested a nice looking coral reef, so that's what I'm going to be getting started on right away. I sectioned off a segment of the water with some bubbles so I don't drain the entire pool, then I used some lava and chests to quickly get rid of the water. I always find it easier to work on underwater builds when there's no water at all, and then add it in afterwards towards the end of the building process. I'll be showing this more in detail later in the week when I build the ocean pylon. I do have a tutorial out on building coral reefs, but that was made before 1.4. A lot of the information is still helpful, so I'll leave a link to that video in the description below, but there have been some new additions and changes to ocean blocks and decorations, which I'll talk about later this week, the big one being the new texture for coral stone block. It's far more vibrant and colorful than it used to be, and at the same time it also has a bit of stone coloration and texture to it. The colorful parts along the edges are shaped more like coral would actually look, and it makes the entire block look a lot more appealing when used in this fashion. Coral stone has always been one of my least used materials, and I'm not sure that this change will actually change how often that I use that. However, I absolutely love the way this block looks when used to actually make coral reefs. It's a big improvement over the original design in my opinion. Once I was finished replacing the water and detailing the reefs, I moved on to building the actual ruins. Since this is on a waterfront right next to the coral reef, I considered a couple of different options. I thought a lighthouse might be nice, but I would want the Crimson and Corruption climbing on both sides of it, and that would be a relatively small build compared to the amount of space that was given to me to do this video. So instead, I decided on a small port town with a pier. The supports for the dock are made out of brown painted large bamboo. Behind that is white painted blue slab wall. This gives the entire foundation a cobblestone feel, which I thought might make for a sturdy looking dock. I wanted this to look ruined, but I wanted it to look like it would last for a while. Since this is an eerie scene right on the edge of water, I also thought it might be a great idea to have it look like fog was rolling in. Thanks to the amazing new fog machines, this is entirely possible. I place a few of them on top of some platforms under the water, and I paint them black so they cannot be easily seen. The combination of fog, water, paint, and stone wall behind them really makes the machines difficult to see, which really adds to the ambience. I had considered placing some tombstones to add even more fog to the area, but the server already had an amazing looking graveyard build on it, so I wanted to let that one be unique. I finish up the dock with some minor detail work, some spooky wood planked floors, flag and lampposts, and some fishing crates. Stuff that makes this feel like an abandoned dock. Once that was done, I moved on to the buildings. Immediately to the left of the pier, I wanted to build a small wooden storage shack that had collapsed from the corruption and time since it had been abandoned. To accomplish this, I used orange paint on the shade wood, wood wall, and spooky wood for the ceilings and walls. This gives the wood a faded look as opposed to painting them with brown, which turns out far more vibrant and it makes it look newer. I do not paint the rich mahogany walls or the large bamboo with orange, however, because both of those take on a more reddish appearance and they don't look very faded as well. So I end up painting them brown. The base of the building is lined with gray painted green slab wall, but the areas where the background wall is exposed to the elements from the large hole that's been punched into the ceiling and the wall, I end up using gray painted hellstone brick. This is a lot more crumbly in texture, and I think it really fits any segment of wall that you want to look like it's falling apart. After some more landscaping, I move on to the main feature of the build. The idea was to make some ruined garrison made out of stone brick, kind of like a medieval keep or rook. This will have 2 towers connected by a bridge. The right half will have a long hallway entrance and will be the corruption half. The left will be just the tower with a special addition on the outside of it, which I'll talk about later in the video, and that will be the crimson half. I want to have some blending of the 2 biomes in the middle as well. I start the entire structure without any crimson or corruption at all. It isn't even ruined. I have no holes punched into it, and I use the cleaner looking Ebonstone brick. All ruins start from somewhere. At some point they weren't ruins at all, and they were just standard structures. For this reason, sometimes when building them in Terraria, it's much easier to start off by making a new, clean version first. Then you can add the details and remove segments that you need to make it look ruined. That's the approach that I took for these towers. It kind of guarantees that your ruins will maintain a structure shape, and you can be able to actually tell what they were supposed to be before they were ruined. Many of the corruption enemies spit green cursed flames at you. The furniture sets also have the same bright green flames in them. Because of this, in my mind, the bright green and corruption go hand in hand. So I like adding some oozing green slime in my corruption builds. Technically speaking, it's not slime, it's moss. Krypton moss to be exact. This new material that was added in 1.4 glows bright green and fits really well in the corruption. When you place it in the center of a large chunk of gray brick, it takes on a dripping texture, like it's leaking out of the walls. I use this on actuated gray bricks to make it appear as toxic green sludge is seeping from the ruined walls and the ceiling. Since I want the dripping effect only and not the green edges for the background wall, I use a technique of combining different bricks. This prevents the moss from growing to the edges, and it also blends in better with the background walls as well. I will talk about exactly how to do this in a tutorial that should be coming out later this week. Next, I move on to the other half of the build, the Crimson Tower. This is made using the same techniques and materials as the Corruption Tower. However, instead of having a spiral staircase running up the center, I decided on making a large window feature using some actuated grate blocks. Since you can see the background behind them, they let light in, and all in all they make for fantastic medieval windows. Then I start making this structure look ruined and overtaken. I swap out Ebonstone brick in places with green brick and cracked green brick, which have a much rougher texture. Then, using Legion block, I added growths of corruption to the right tower as well as the wooden shack out to the side of it. Legion block placed in this fashion looks like a tumorous mass growing on top of a structure, as if the corruption is literally growing out of the ruins. I do the same thing with the crimson half of the building using flesh block painted red. That block can occasionally have a texture of an eyeball, and that eye has a blue iris. I personally don't like the little dots of blue that pop out on occasion, which is why I paint the blocks red. You could use deep red paint for that, but I think it's a little much. In addition to the fleshy masses growing onto the left tower, I hide away a blood fountain and I place some water drips to make it look like some blood is dripping from the masses. After that, I work on the major feature of the crimson half. In a naturally generated crimson world, I always picture the caves to look somewhat like mouths. I'm not sure if that's the intention, but that's how I interpret it. When I build crimson biomes, I take the concept of a mouth, but I try to ramp up the ghoulish feeling. Instead of a red stone cave, I create a deep, fleshy, festering maw that is sunken far into the earth, as if the very ground is trying to swallow you whole. The edges of this maw are lined with red painted flesh, but a mouth with no teeth isn't nearly as menacing. So, using bone blocks and bone platforms, I placed random spears of sharp-looking teeth along the edges of the fleshy walls. The thought behind this is something like a Sarlacc pit from Star Wars, but far more oozing rather than sandy. This particular Crimson mod doesn't go very deep because I don't need it to for this, but if I was redesigning a Crimson biome, I would continue this all the way down into the caverns where you would fight the Brain of Cthulhu. If you'd like to see me redesign the Crimson biome, let me know in the comments. I'm seriously considering someday starting a series where I customize every biome in Terraria. Once the mod looks sufficiently eerie, I give it some depth by adding background walls. The 3 new types of Crimson walls crafted from Echo Mist within the Graveyard mini biome are an obvious pick for this creation. Not only can I mimic the fleshy sides, but I can even mimic the teeth using the right combination of walls. This really pulls everything together for this build, and I'm so happy that Relogic added the ability to place these naturally generated walls. Finally, I tie everything together by adding some more detail. I place crimson grass and corruption grass for bushes outside of the buildings. The background walls within the towers also get a blend of the new crimson and corruption walls to further give the feeling that these two biomes are battling out against each other in a tug of war centered around these ruins. More fog is added to the false foundations of each of the towers and the wooden shack, and a few lamps and other bits of furniture are added as well. I didn't want to add too much decoration because I really wanted this building to feel as if it was completely abandoned to the Crimson and Corruption years ago. And with that, the clash of the Crimson and Corruption on Pedguin's minigame server is complete. I'm very pleased with how the build turned out. If you are too, please let me know by leaving a like. If you're new to the channel, or if you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing. It really helps me out. I make several Terraria build related videos a week, and I even have a collaboration builders let's play series going on in the channel. Once again, if you're interested in picking up some channel merch, you will find a link to it down below. This trial run will only last for 2 weeks, so if you wanted to buy a shirt, mug, or sticker, you have until the start of July. I wanted to thank the staff at Pedguin's minigame server for inviting me over to do this build. It was a ton of fun, and I hope you all enjoyed the creation. And thank everybody for watching this video. I'll catch you all later. Happy building!